Welcome. You've arrived at the edge of something ancient, a hush between heaven and earth, a time before the flood when the sky held secrets and the watchers still looked down. This is not a tale of noise and fury. It is quiet, woven in whispers, a soft unfolding of rebellion, and remembrance. Tonight, we drift into the story of Enoch, a man who walked with God and vanished from earth. A man who wrote what he saw in dreams and in the deep. We will not hurry. Instead, we will float through the days before the waters rose, through the slow descent of the divine, through the quiet warnings carved into stone. We'll begin with the world Enoch knew, a world turning, a people building, a sky growing restless. Then we'll walk with him slowly into the visions. Fallen ones, named and numbered, mountains split, oaths made and broken. Later we'll pause to wonder, how did this hidden book survive? What did the ancient scrolls say that others feared? And finally, we'll lift our eyes to the contrast, the people of the flood, the prophets who warned, and the angels who watched too long. Breathe in slowly. Let yourself rest. Let the stars come close. And as sleep begins to stir at the edges of your thoughts, we enter the world of the Watchers, daily life in Enoch's world. Imagine yourself standing on cool, dew-covered ground just before sunrise. The trees around you are taller than any you've seen, ancient, gnarled, and heavy with mist. The wind stirs the high branches, and in the distance, the slow, rhythmic thud of wooden tools against stone echoes like a heartbeat through the valley. This is a time before cities, before kingdoms, before Moses or Abraham. You are in the world as it once was, a world of beginnings. Enoch's world is old, not in years, but in silence. The air is thick with the scent of soil, firewood, and river clay. There are no streets, no temples, only paths worn by feet and time. People live in small cluster stone dwellings tucked into hillsides, woven huts beside slow rivers. Fires are kept burning not just for warmth, but for survival. The day begins with gathering. Roots, berries, grains, what the land will give. Men shape tools from bone and flint. Women grind grain with smooth stones, their hands moving in practiced rhythmic circles. There is no metal yet, no written law. Only stories pass from elder to child beside the firelight. And among these early families, there are those who remember more. The old ones speak of the sky, of beings that once came down, and beings that should not have. They speak in soft tones about stars that moved strangely, and voices in the wind. Enoch would have grown up listening, watching the animals move in patterns, the rivers swell and recede, the moon wax and wane like breath. He noticed things others missed, the way trees leaned when no wind was present, the dreams that came not from hunger, but from elsewhere. He did not live as a king or warrior. He was a walker, a watcher, a man of quiet habits and deep attentiveness. He kept track of days. He marked seasons. He counted constellations not to control time, but to understand the one who set it in motion. And while others tilled fields or raised herds, Enoch wandered. He sat beside streams and listened to the earth. He spoke with elders, and sometimes it is said with angels. The book of Genesis tells us very little. That Enoch walked with God, and then he was no more. But the Book of the Watchers, an older, stranger text, tells a longer tale. A tale of descent, of warnings, of heavenly beings who loved what they should not. Before that story, though, before rebellion, there was quiet, a world turning slowly, a man observing, and the wind whispering something new. Just beneath the silence, Enoch's visions and the fall of the Watchers, it began, they say, on Mount Hermon, a tall, snow-capped summit where clouds cling like secrets, and where a group of angels, 200 in all, descended, clothed in light and longing. They were called the Watchers, charged with observing humanity, but never touching. But desire can blur boundaries, even in heaven. These angels, led by one named Simaza, looked upon the daughters of men and saw beauty. They did not fall suddenly. They fell slowly, in decisions, in whispers, in oaths sworn in secret. They bound themselves in agreement to take wives, to descend fully, to bear children not of this world. And so they did. The Book of the Watchers, preserved in fragments in the hills of Ethiopia, describes what came next with eerie calm. These beings taught forbidden things: alchemy, enchantment, root cutting, weapon making. They taught how to read the stars, not to worship the Creator, but to manipulate creation. They painted eyes with crushed stones, carved symbols into weapons, melted ore to make war, and their children, giants, grew beyond all bounds. The earth cried out under their weight. Blood soaked the ground. Beasts were twisted. Balance was undone, and Enoch saw it all in dreams, in visions, in strange journeys led by heavenly guides. He was taken through the skies, past walls of fire and rivers of judgment, to see the place where these angels would be chained. He heard their cries, saw their shame, watched them beg him to intercede, to speak to the Most High. But Enoch said nothing. He only listened, recorded, walked in silence, as the heavens mourned. In one vision, he saw the flood, a cleansing wave that would reset what was broken. But long before the rain came the silence, and in that silence he wrote, not just for his generation, but for the last, for a world that would forget the Watchers, but still feel their shadows. Enoch never returned to the dust. That's what makes his story different. Not a death, but a disappearance. Not a burial, but a taking. Enoch walked with God, and then he was not. The ancient texts say he was lifted, that he entered the realms where mortals fear to tread, and became more than man. But he left something behind, a book, or perhaps many books, scrolls etched with symbols older than Hebrew. Speaking of watchers, wanderers, and the return of divine order, the Book of the Watchers is only one part of this mystery. Other writings like the Book of Secrets, the Book of Parables, the Astronomical Book, all trace their roots back to Enoch. These texts whisper of cosmic battles, layers of heaven, and a future reckoning with those who still distort the divine order. Some say the church hid these writings. Others say they were lost or protected for a time when eyes would be ready to see. But in Ethiopia, among the oldest Christian communities, Enoch's voice was preserved, held sacred, not as myth, but as memory. Why? Because Enoch's words speak not only of the past, but of patterns. They echo what many sense, but cannot name that what felt still moves, that some knowledge was never meant for open hands. And yet the mystery remains. Why Enoch? Why him? Perhaps because he listened when others spoke. Perhaps because he walked when others slept. Perhaps because some truths only whisper, and he had the silence to hear. The hidden book is not just parchment. It is the soul of one who watched the watchers and kept walking into light.
Contrast the sons of heaven vs the sons of earth in the hush of ancient time, long before kings wore crowns or prophets cried out in temple courts. A deeper contrast stirred beneath the surface of the earth and sky. Two lineages, two loyalties, two ways of walking. The sons of God, those called the Watchers, looked upon the daughters of men, and in that moment desire eclipsed duty. They descended. Not with war, but with wonder, they taught, gave, revealed metals, roots, incantations. It seemed like knowledge, but it carried weight. These fallen ones once heavenly mingled with flesh, and from that union came the Nephilim, giants, not only in stature, but in disruption. Meanwhile, the sons of earth, the human ones, kept planting, kept building, kept praying, though their voices cracked beneath the sky. And in the shadow of rebellion, a quiet man walked with God. He didn't command armies. He didn't build towers. He didn't strive to rise. He simply walked. While the watchers fell from light into secrecy, Enoch rose into silence. Where they broke trust, he kept it. Where they scattered wisdom like fire, he guarded it with reverence. He did not worship the stars, but understood their order. He did not command spirits, but listened for whispers beyond the veil. In every era, there are watchers. There are those who seek control, cloaked as enlightenment, and those who surrender control, stepping into mystery. Enoch walked alone, but not abandoned. The contrast could not be more stark. Fallen messengers versus a faithful man, those who came down by choice, versus the one who was taken up in grace. And you, in the quiet of your night, may find yourself somewhere between, longing to know, afraid to fall, called to walk. Let the final moments of this tale bring you rest.
The world turns slowly. Above us, stars still blink with secrets. Beneath us, stones still hold the weight of ancient footsteps. And somewhere in between are stories like this, of watchers and wanderers, of those who looked too long, and one man who walked with God until he was no more. Enoch did not build a kingdom. He did not conquer lands. He simply listened, watched, recorded what he saw, and trusted the silence. Tonight, as you lie still beneath your own ceiling of stars, you carry that same invitation to walk with wonder, to ask without fear, to trust that some mysteries are not lost, only resting. And though the watchers fell, Enoch rose. May your dreams tonight be filled not with fear, but with awe, not with answers, but with presence. And if you listen closely, beneath the hum of breath and the hush of night, you just might hear it, the echo of wings, the turning of a page, and the footsteps of a faithful one still walking. Sleep well, beloved seeker. End of the Book of the Watchers.